The Arizona Cardinals improved once again in the 2024 season, and now they're looking to make their big playoff push in the 2025 season by knocking this draft out of the park. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we're going to be breaking down our first 3-round mock draft for the Arizona Cardinals in the 2025 offseason. But before we get into that, if you like the content that we put out and you want to help the channel grow, easiest way is hitting that subscribe button, tackling that bell, and also leaving a like and a comment. Let us know what you think of the Arizona Cardinals draft and what you like to see them do come April. And Ryan, with that being said, let's pull this up here. So we did a full mock draft, all 100 or so picks within the first 3 rounds. And for the Cardinals, is my mindset, it's trenches, 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 particularly on the defensive side of the ball. We're going to talk about the offensive line here a little bit, and some other potential picks that they could make kind of throughout this draft. But I think that's something that they can absolutely go and address here this draft. But with this pick, though, with all the great defensive line talent here, you go and get a guy like Kenneth Grant, and you just go stick him in the middle of this defense, and this defense is already better. Kenneth Grant's one of the
Oh yeah.
few reasons why Michigan was relevant this year. The other one was Mason Graham and Will Johnson as well. Both those two guys have already been drafted. I think they were both taken in the top 7 or 8 in our mock draft here. Kenneth Grant, he's taking 16 here. I can honestly see an argument where teams would even take him higher as well. But he's a big, meaty guy sitting around 330, and he's going to come in and arguably, maybe outside of Buda Baker, one of the better defensive players on this Arizona Cardinals team. Jonathan Gannon has his team playing super hard, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but they just struggled overall statistically. And in the division that they're in and in the conference that they're in as well, they're going to need big, athletic guys that can blow up the offensive line, stop the run, and get after the
Mhm.
pass. I think Kenneth Grant can absolutely be that guy for them.
Yeah, and I think too when you look at this defensive line class, there are litany of guys that all different shapes and sizes, but there are a lot of like really big, like nose tackle, like big defensive tackle types. And I think Kenneth Grant kind of leads the way. You see Tyleek Williams, his name is right after that. But like I think you go look at guys like Deion Walker as well. That's gonna like the third round version of this. Kenneth Grant just does such a good job of playing with leverage, uh, being stout in the run game, and then also getting upfield and collapsing the pocket from the top. And I think if you're the Cardinals, where you're kind of running that 3-4 outside linebacker esque system, getting a guy that can play over the center or like play shades of nose and whatnot, I think that is going to open up these edge rushers to really just get after the quarterback. And even though like you might not get a top edge rusher in this like in the top 50 here, like I think going and developing the guys that you already have, I think is going to be the best case scenario with a guy like Kenneth Grant, where you know that middle is going to be plugged pretty consistently. So if they want to go that edge rusher route, Michael Williams is an option. Mike Green is an option as well. Two different types of edge rushers. Both are pretty freakish athletes. Michael Williams is a little bit bigger. And then if they also want to go on the back end of the defense, Malachi Starks be a little bit of a Buda Baker replacement. Not that he's leaving, but just he's getting older. Also, too, I think when you look at Malachi Starks, he can play anywhere in that secondary, really, except like outside corner. Very
Mhm.
versatile, very smart football player. And so I think that would be somebody that Jonathan Gannon would be attracted to potentially add to his team. So let's move on to their second overall pick here at pick 47. Trey Amos, the Ole Miss corner, very physical, very solid athlete as well. Not the like super high end athlete that you see like out of a Christian Gonzalez or like a Pat Surtain, but can definitely hold his own. He's sticky enough in man coverage and can definitely play zone really well.
Well, and so that's the thing from what I've watched on his tape is I do like his aggressiveness
Mhm.
from what I've seen. And so I think if you get Kenneth Grant in there, a guy who can potentially like allow Arizona to just rush forward every time, something similar to how we saw Philadelphia destroy
Mhm.
Kansas City in the Super Bowl. But if you can get a guy like that up front, and then you get an aggressive corner like Trey Amos, and you're dropping back 7, I think he would fit well and complement well into what this defensive line would be turning into to covering up some of these guys here, because he'd only have to cover them for a couple of seconds. Well, in theory, in theory
Yeah.
you only have to cover them for a couple of seconds. But I think a guy like Trey Amos, I think come in and I think this whole defense just needs to get better, just like raise the floor or raise the ceiling of talent. And I think Trey Amos is a guy that can do that here at this spot. If they didn't want to go Trey Amos, as you can see, there's a lot of guys around him that they could have gone. They could have gone Kevin Winston, Nick Armanwari, Andrew Makuba if they want to hit that safety spot. All of those guys can come in, sit very similar to Buda Baker and what we said about Malachi Starks. I just think these guys would just be great guys to come in and play defense. Bring another guy in the
Mhm.
box. Nick Armanwari, I think you said famously on the Falcons mock draft, is one tackle away from being a linebacker. And if you go look at this front seven as well, it's not like the linebackers are anything to die for the Arizona. So go get Nick Armanwari, and then you go have another safety linebacker combo s guy in there that can also cover receivers, can also cover running backs, and can also tackle running backs really well. So that would be an interesting route that they go. The way the draft has shaped up for just doing mock drafts and practicing as well. This does seem like the secondary pick for Arizona. If they were going to go secondary, be second round compared to the first round. There's just so much good defensive line
Yeah.
talent and even offensive line talent as well in that first round. So that's where I think it's going to be very interesting on what they end up doing. But it does, to me, feel like they would probably go defensive line secondary with these first two picks. Moving on now to their final pick in the 3-round mock draft, Ashton Gillotte. Did I say that correctly?
Gillotte. I think it's
Gillotte.
Gillotte.
It's actually honestly cooler to say Ashton Gillotte. He needs to
Yeah.
get a sponsorship with Gillette. I think that would be
Yeah.
pretty good.
Or a
Always gives,
gelato company.
or that's true. That's true. A
Yeah.
shaving gelato company. Anyways, edge rusher out of Louisville. It's going to be interesting to see where he ends up falling. He could maybe rise up a little bit more. He could maybe fall outside of day two. But for Arizona, once again, as we've talked about, somebody looking to just keep on improving the overall talent on that defensive line here. And so a guy 6'3", 275. If this doesn't fit Jonathan Gannon's scheme, I think a guy that would potentially fit him, be the exact opposite, would be a guy like Donovan Ezrake. You really like him, but he's going to be that smaller, more outside linebacker.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think this is more. If you don't like this edge rusher pick, but go a different edge rusher, I think they would go with the style of edge rusher or defensive lineman that they would like here from the outside to help bring in that good competitive pressure. And so, guy like Ashton Gelati, though, I think a lot to be designed, a lot of good film coming out of Louisville, and would be good value. And supposedly he plays well as a Cardinal, so why not just keep him as a Cardinal also throughout his professional career?
Yeah. I mean, just bring the helmet over, honestly. They're close enough. Although I
Pretty
guess it
similar.
depends on which uniform they're wearing. But no, I like him kind of as that 3-4 end. I think you put him next to Kenneth Grant. He's stout enough in the run game. I think he could handle one-on-one matchups with guards and I think too, if he's crashing and you have guys running stunts around him, I think that's a really good fit as well. He has a really solid bull rush and has other good pass rush tools in his arsenal. So I think he's a really interesting fit. He is a little undersized to maybe be like a true like 3-4 end. But I think the talent is definitely there for him to go and uh, be a solid NFL contributor. And with a third round pick, that's really all you're looking for. I do like Donovan Ezaraku as well. I think he has good burst. He is stout against the run as well for his size. You could also go with a Maxwell Hairston or like a CJ West if you're looking for a corner at this stage or a run stuffing defensive tackle at this stage as well. I think that both of those guys could be interesting options there as well. But all in all, I think looking at the Arizona Cardinals, there's a lot of hope going into this season. They've made incremental progress each season under Jonathan Gannon, and I hope that they can kind of continue to do that. They've kind of become I say like a darling of NFL fans, but just watching them kind of go from being one of the worst teams in the league, but also putting out some of the most effort week in and week out to finding success last year and I believe almost making the playoffs, not quite. Yeah, at 16. So
Almost.
almost making the
Yeah.
playoffs. They were leading the division pretty late in the season as well. I'm sure Cardinals fans want me to keep reminding them of that, but uh, like this is a team that is doing a really good job of like kind of doing that slow build. Like they're slowly collecting talent. They're not making any crazy moves to quickly add talent to their roster. They're just drafting and developing and slowly building something that could be really fun to watch here in the near future.
Yeah.
All right. Man, a few words. Let's go ahead. Let's wrap up this mock draft here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on what you thought of this Arizona Cardinals 3-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you have done differently? And other than that, we'll see you guys next time.